I don't plan on making many videos like this, but considering the subject matter of my last video, I found this a perfect example of what I was saying. I hate looking at mods because I see shit like this. Do you people even like to play the game, or is it all just about how much you can sexualize the women in it? Now, normally I wouldn't have a problem with this. It's, you know, if you don't want everything to be hypersexualized, that's cool. If you don't want to download a mod that's very sexual, that's cool. But this is Silent Hill 2. The entire game is about sexuality, specifically of JamesSunderland. This was purged completely from the remaster. In the original game, you go in with a woman who was sexually abused by her father for a decade and fight a boss in a room full of throbbing dicks. Every time we get a remaster, the original meaning is lost. So you have people like this who see something and they say, that seems bad. I played the game. No, you didn't. You played the remaster. If I look at the Mona Lisa and then I sketch it out on a tablet, you didn't look at the Mona Lisa because you looked at my sketch. It doesn't matter. This is not the original game. We have to stop framing these as the original game. We understand this with every other medium. If there was a CitizenKane remake that came out tomorrow, and I went and watched it, and I said, I watched CitizenKane, you'd look at me like I was a fucking idiot. Because I would be a fucking idiot. I wouldn't have watched CitizenKane, I would have watched the remake of CitizenKane. But with games, we not only accept this, but we're excited. People were falling head over heels for the Oblivion remake. Which, well, wasn't as bad. Was still bad, and it still looked nothing like Oblivion. It seemed nothing like Oblivion. They removed the gameplay from Oblivion to let it go out so casuals could play it, which is what Bethesda's been doing for decades, and that's another one of the things that the gaming industry is destroying itself doing. I mean, look at Baldur's Gate 3, a literal licensed D&D simulator that had enormous popularity. This is the reason we have things like, until recently, turn-based RPGs were considered that they couldn't sell, because they stopped doing it. Arena shooters still are considered that they can't sell, because they stopped doing it. If every game was an arena shooter for the last 10 years, like every game was a cover-based shooter, during the 360 era, people would be used to that. The Last of Us, when it came out, was not a normal way to play games. It was much slower, much different. You had a lot of unique experiences within that game. But every game became The Last of Us. And since every game became The Last of Us after that point, people only knew how to play games that were like The Last of Us. This is like the old NeedforSpeed games. If you play a game like HotPursuit today, you don't know how to play it. It's weird to play, it handles weird. But if you play it a lot, and if you play games like it, all of a sudden, NeedforSpeedHeat, and games like that, or NeedforSpeedUnbound and games like that feel weird. Because we've completely changed what we do. And there's no respect in gaming for what came before. EA will never say, this was beautiful. I love what we did with the old Need for Speed games. I wonder if we can do that again. Maybe we can pay homage to it. What they either do is they remaster it, which just butchers the original game. So what they'll do is they might make the graphics prettier, but they'll destroy the meaning of the graphics. And while they destroy the meaning of the graphics, they'll completely change the gameplay so that the people playing it today will have it feel like Need for Speed Heat. If Need for Speed Underground was remade today, it would feel like Unbound or Heat. Because there's no variety. The entire industry has gone towards homogeneity. And this is just unacceptable. Going back to this tweet, we see something fascinating here. It's that the meaning of the first game, the actual game, and the remaster are completely different. The original game was a story about sex, and violence. The new one's just a story about violence, because they completely censored everything, from the appearance of the characters, the outfit Mary was wearing, the literal room full of throbbing dicks, which they not only got rid of, but just replaced with nothing. It's just a room now. Because every game has to be the same. This is another game that wants to be The Last of Us. And it's just The Last of Us without enemy variety and skin suiting Silent Hill. Because one of the unique things with games is they're very contingent on how they're designed. So, in a movie, if I'm remaking Citizen Kane, when I do that remake, if I get the camera angle off slightly, it's not that big a deal. Like, obviously it's a terrible thing that I'm remaking Citizen Kane, but the difference between a camera shot at a 55-degree angle and a 54-degree angle are completely different. But if I was going to remake a game like Quake, and I want to replace wish-doe movement, which is what creates the bunny hopping and power bunny hopping, with a simpler modern system, that will completely destroy the game. Because small tweaks like that have massive differences. If I were to tone down the jumping slightly, that would have a massive difference on the way the game played. And that's the similar thing, it's just one value, but it completely changes everything. Imagine if I tried to remake Mario Bros. 3, one of the original 2D Marios, but I changed Mario's jump height. If I changed it by 2%, like I am with the camera angle, it completely changes the way the game plays and the way the levels function. We saw this with modern platformers, Crash Bandicoot to be the example. But this is just absolutely insane. And this tweet reminded me of what we truly have to deal with. Because the original game is the original game. This was a beautiful work of art. This was one of the first games to truly have a story in the way this did. And this was one of the best ways to tell a game story in the traditional sense. It's still, in the method that it tells the story, the best ever. In how the story is told and what the story is. But we can't accept that. Because, look, the camera controls is different. But the camera controls are amazing. I love the camera controls. That's my favorite part about the game. Because the modern over-the-shoulder third-person camera is just lazy. That's why they do it. They have intentionally conditioned you to not like the traditional survival horror cameras. Because if I want to make a survival horror camera as a developer, what I have to do is every level, I'll place 30, 40, 50 different cameras. For one building in Silent Hill 2, you'll have 20 or 30 cameras, just for the player. Easily. But, if I do a third-person camera, I can just set up the mesh, and then set up the camera looking down on the mesh at whatever angle I want. One camera, I do the entire thing. So, developers stopped caring, and to streamline the process, got people used to having only one camera. Now that they have one camera, people forget how to play old games like this. And so, instead of accepting that and accepting the beauty of the way the camera works and how it shows off the environment and the true sense of unknowing that the camera can also contribute to, that you just can't get when you can swing around a camera with your mouse or your joystick, they changed it. They changed it to the modern standard because they don't appreciate the beauty of the past. And there was great beauty in the past. In gaming, as much as basically any other medium. Because even though gaming hasn't been around that long relative to something like painting or television, it's changed more in the way it was done than any other medium you'll see. But change is not always a good thing. It's not good for its own sake. We have better paints than when we painted the Sistine Chapel, but we don't repaint it. We have better cameras than when we made CitizenKane, but we don't refilm it. But since we have better GPUs than we did when we made Silent Hill 2, we find it acceptable to not only change the game, but to change the story and to change the gameplay. And the people that come by and can't be bothered to play the original, because they have no respect for the people that made it, the people that loved it, or the actual game itself, will not only play this new one, but they'll play the new one, say that they played Silent Hill 2, and then lecture you on why you should dislike it, and why you are wrong, and why you aren't good enough, and why you are lesser than. Because you actually understand the game. You actually understand what's going on with it. But they don't. This nurse, the way these nurses work, projection of James's sexual desires when Mary is sick. I'll just leave it at that for now. So considering that they're a projection of James's sexual desires towards the nurses when his wife was sick, why the fuck do you have a problem with them being more sexualized, you fucking moron? But they played the remaster. The remaster took that out. They don't know this because they played the remaster, but they think they played the game because they played the remaster. And since they played the remaster, and you played the original, the actual game, they think that it's the same, and that they can lecture you on what you should and shouldn't like about it, on what you should and shouldn't do, on why you are a bad person, because you want the actual game to play like the actual fucking game. You morons, you subhumans, you pathetic pieces of shit. Go to hell. You don't deserve anything in life. You don't deserve a damn thing. You are idiots. Now get the fuck out of this. You're the people who have been ruining this industry for 15 years, and you're the reason every game is either terrible now, or making a good thing terrible now. Fuck you.